Hey everyone, and welcome to Canada Music Reviews. I'm your host Walls, and I listen to songs by your favorite Canadian artists, both big and small, break down their aesthetic qualities through musical and production analysis, and ultimately figure out why the production team's creative decisions help the song reach out and connect with its audience. On this episode, this is the first, and certainly not the last time I'll be talking about a signed band on this channel, and that band is none other than Like Pacific. I'll be analyzing their song Richmond, which is the first track off of their debut full-length album, Distant Like You Asked. I remember at the time they had all kinds of momentum going for them when they released it, as they were on a pretty heavy tour with State Champs, Neck Deep, and Knuckle Puck, and that played a huge role in getting their album out there. But anyways, Like Pacific started in 2010 with Jordan Black on vocals, and I do believe he's the only founding member that's still in the band. They released their first EPs independently, and two of them are still available on Bandcamp today, called The Worst and Homebound. Now, it's not their worst EP, but that is what it's called, and I don't know, A+ marketing. It's interesting hearing their old music in retrospect, as I don't think their music really got pissed until their self-titled EP release in 2015, which was their first on Pure Noise Records. They really started to hit their groove then, but when their full length came out, that's when they truly went to another level. As of right now, Richmond has over 1.5 million streams on Spotify, and I honestly don't think they could have picked a better opening for their album. So let's find out why I think that, and while we do that, we can massage our ears. Very nice. So just like in my previous episode where I discussed In Case We Crash's song Soul Paint, there's a nice vocal pickup by Jordan happening at the beginning of Richmond, with razor sharp guitar accompaniment happening with it as well. The guitar is panned pretty hard to the left so as not to interfere with the lead vocal, and it can stand out better as its own part. Honestly, I'm addicted to the lift that happens when the rest of the band comes in, and I can't not bop my head to it. It's just so groovy, it just takes me away to a faraway place as I get lost in Jordan's catchy melodies that go over it. Then there's these sick guitar scratches that subtly happen too, which further complements the groove and keeps it moving. I also really love how punchy the bass sounds. It cuts right through the mix, and it has that nice brightness to it as well. Using a Fender Jazz bass is a nice choice, as it naturally has a bit more high end than a precision bass, which is what pop-punk bassists are typically going to play. Now that I think about it, it reminds me of Mark Hoppus' tone a little bit, who also happens to use a jazz bass. I also love the bass fill that leads into the chorus about 28 seconds in, and it reminds me of something Mike Dirnt from Green Day would play in his early music. Kinda sounds like one of the fills in When I Come Around, actually, to be specific. The vocals in the chorus hit a higher range like in any well-written song, but what's unique to Richmond in my opinion is how the vocals get much angrier going along with the lift. And this newfound anger doesn't really go away throughout the rest of the song either. The chorus just feels so big and huge, and everything leading up to it built perfectly to that point. It also ends perfectly going into the sharp guitar lead while the vocals echo and fade away. I also notice how the guitar is filtered as well in this part. That's a solid decision from the production team to have the section really start over from a dynamic standpoint. And it's pretty subtle too, because I didn't catch that right away. It took me a few listens to kind of realize oh, that's kind of filtered, hey, that's kind of cool. And it's pretty crazy that we're already onto the second verse at 49 seconds in, as with most songs, that's when the chorus would start. And frankly, 49 seconds is not a bad place to start the chorus either. But, starting the chorus at 28 seconds, that's even better. The second verse hits a little differently since we have an angrier and higher vocal line, and that helps the section be a little different than the first verse, being that the instrumental parts are the same. They finish the section quickly and get right into a pre-chorus at 103. The vocals kinda calm down in this section, and the rhythms kinda change up here as well as the notes, which is a nice touch, cause I will admit, the vocals can feel a little samey sometimes. Most of the melodies really anchor around the first three notes of the G-flat major scale, being G-flat, A-flat, and B-flat. To be fair, they do change octaves a lot, and the change in emotion helps to differentiate the parts. However, if you look at the notes on their own without changing octaves, I do feel it borders on being too repetitive in my opinion. I'll give some examples on my keyboard to further demonstrate what I mean. So here's the verse. Here's the chorus. Here's the second verse. Some would argue there's no such thing as being too repetitive in music, but speaking for my own tastes, it can kind of arise as an issue sometimes. But I do love the melodies in this song for what they are, and they're definitely catchy. I like how the bridge at 1:40 starts. That is, if it's even a bridge. It could very well be a third verse, but part of the fun in this song is how the different sections can take you by surprise, and you don't really know what their intended function is. But either way, we get more bass to start it off, and the punchiness just hits you like a truck, and the quiet echoes of the vocals hit right in the feels too. There's a nice lead that happens about halfway through at 1:48, and that helps carry things forward to that build-up part at 1:57. That part kind of reminds me of like an EDM build-up or something, where you start with quarter notes and the progression gradually subdivides each rhythm from there to create some suspense and build. The final choruses are really huge, and they each build up in their own way that's a little different from the other choruses. I noticed the tambourine is a little louder than the other choruses, and that little change adds more evident spectral content in the high frequency ranges. There's also this droning guitar lead that I'm hearing which gradually gets louder as you progress from one chorus to the next, and it also enters a higher register which helps it stand out even more in the mix. We then get a sustained one chord to finish off the tune, and what sounds like a point source pick slide going from right to left to leave it off. Very nice. But yeah, I think Richmond is a solid song. It's certainly a great album opener, but in my opinion, the singles that were chosen, like Distant and Worthless Case, are both stronger tunes than this one. When I was trying to figure out what Like Pacific song to talk about, something about Richmond stood out to me, and I think it was because of that banging intro that sounds really funk-like and groovy. I fiddled around with it on guitar, and when it's without distortion it sounds even groovier and more conventional, so adding that form of signal processing to it really makes it stand out and be unique. The production, of course, is super solid as always. Distant Like You Asked was produced and engineered by none other than Sam Guyana, but the mixing was actually done by Kyle Black. There's still that harsh style, particularly in the guitars, but there's still a bit of overall bright feel that was possibly brought in by Kyle's mixing style, or even during mastering. I can say that the production team with this one kinda nailed it. You know, great stuff. It was nice. I enjoyed it. Good album. The lyrics are pretty easy to digest for the most part, as they're about a failed relationship where both sides appear to have their own shortcomings. Abuse may have been involved, maybe not. But either way, there's definitely some relatability in the lyrics, and I also think the emotions of the music reflect the dark subject matter of the lyrics perfectly. As I said earlier, there's a harsh and aggressive feel in the tune with a hint of brightness, and also the fact that it's in a flat key center greatly contributes to a dark feel as well. But yeah, Richmond is a great tune in its own right. It encapsulates everything you want in 2010s pop punk, and it has a similar feel and tone to the Story So Far album, What You Don't See. I thought the melodies were really catchy despite maybe being a little too repetitive, and lyrically it tells a bit of a story that's relatable to an older demographic of people in their late teens and early 20s, possibly even mid-20s too. For a smaller band that's more often than not going to be playing 19+ shows, that's a perfect group of people to target, and they strike a chord with them perfectly. Like I said earlier, they have other great songs in Worthless Case and Distant, but also there's later tunes from their 2018 album In Spite of Me that are really solid as well. Their self-titled EP also has a great song called Suffering that's one of my favorite tunes as well. If you enjoy Like Pacific, I would highly recommend another band from Ontario that you should check out called Cold Front. They also have that aggressive thing going on, and if you're a fan of Like Pacific, I think you'd like Cold Front too. But anyways guys, thank you so much for tuning in to Canada Music Reviews. Like, I really appreciate it, and it means a lot that there are people who are checking in. If there's a band that I should talk about, and they're from Canada, let me know in the comments too. I'm down to check them out. I really hope to see you at the next episode, and remember, don't take anything personally except kindness. Thank you.